Just ring the bell and kick ass.
The following podcast is scheduled for one topic with a 20-minute time limit.
All right, Steve, this episode's topic is what is the biggest issue with indie wrestling? So, Booker extraordinaire for Warrior Wrestling, please tell us how we can fix the world.
Welcome to the official Warrior Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Warrior Wrestling President Steve Tortorello and Warrior Digital Wizard Henry Jasper.
Oh my God. All right, well, so as always, my first disclaimer, these are just my opinions. I have strengths and weaknesses and mistakes galore, so this is just one guy's opinion. I think the biggest question or issue facing all of indie wrestling is what is the value proposition of indie wrestling? What is the role of independent wrestling in 2023 and beyond in a world that has WWE, WWE NXT, AEW, Rampage, Dynamite, and Collision, Impact, New Japan, and others? Because if you went back 5 years ago when Warrior Wrestling started, the role of the independent scene was providing fans the ability to see up close and personal, and then eventually streamed when streaming kind of came back and live streaming was really working well, the type of wrestling you couldn't see on WWE and the stars that you knew were brimming with talent that weren't getting the big national shot. That's what indie wrestling was, right? I think back to 2013, 14, 15, 16, and you'd hear about what the card is for PWG 2 months from now. And you're like, oh my God, 2 months from now, this guy's going to face this guy. I can't wait for 2 months after that when I can watch the DVD. And it would truly be state of the art. And it'd be the thing everybody would be talking about it, because independent wrestling in the mid 2010s to late 2010s was the tip of the spear as far as state of the art work rate. It was the tip of the spear for new talent. It was the only place to see this incredible wrestling, incredible characters, stuff from all over the world. You heard about New Japan. There was no New Japan World yet. You've heard about these guys in Mexico. You've read about these matches. And now you can drive 2 hours to Chicago, to New Jersey, to wherever, and see them. And it's an atmosphere where just everybody's jacked about great wrestling. Everybody wants to be there. Then AEW came along. And to their credit, Tony Khan and the Elite had this brilliant idea, which was, let's take the ethos and the talent of independent wrestling. Let's elevate that to its own different national brand than WWE. And they have. And they've made paydays for hundreds of wrestlers. And they've taken the thing that we all love, that independent wrestling ethos, and they've made it not mainstream, but mainstream to other wrestling fans, which is awesome. The problem is, though, in doing that, like a giant vacuum, they scooped up the independent scene, both talent and style, and elevated it to this national thing, which is cool. But now what's left in the independent scene has to merge and change, and it has been. So, for example, again, 5-6 years ago, if you wanted to see a 4-star banger, you weren't seeing them on WWE. You had to maybe get tickets to see the Lucha Brothers. You had to maybe see, oh my gosh, if we can catch Will Ospreay, Adam Brooks, Filthy Tom Lawler, Cool Soberano Jr., Templario, Brian Cage, right? You had to go find them. Now, if you watch AEW, between Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision, you're going to see like 9 4-star matches a lot of weeks, which is amazing. But it's led to what I call banger saturation. There's too many bangers, such that as an independent wrestling promoter, me trying to tell you as a fan, like, hey, drive up 2 hours from Terre Haute, Indiana to Chicago. You're going to see some bangers. They can see 12 bangers on their couch every week. And so the independent scene has had to adapt from being the place to see state-of-the-art athletic wrestling contests. And I think in many ways going back to its roots, to developing stories, developing characters, developing those things that used to be the realm of TV. Now they have to be the realm of the indies as well, because bangers are also the realm of TV now. So that's something that we have struggled with internally, like pulling the curtain fully back. Eric and I have talked about this hour after hour for the last year. What is Warrior Wrestling now? What is our best combination that you can now see, Vikingo and the Young Bucks and Claudio and whatever every Wednesday. Adam Cole,
I know
and
what
that's something we're still working on.
FTC LLC.
I knew you were going to say that.
The other issue about AEW existing with NXT existing is the people that are performers that are left on the indies, we're all sharing them. After a certain threshold, and not talking about any other promotion, but like after a certain, if you're on the upper echelon, whatever that word is, the top tiers of promotions on the indie scene, like your Defies, your Revolver, who's hot right now, like, and us, I would like to include as much as possible. We're all sharing the same people. And so having that what first time ever, or having that this is a dream match, it's like not only is it happening every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, it's also on TV, but it's also happening every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in every city across the nation. And we're all just swapping talent. And I think that adds another level to it. Now, hopefully we'll see some newer stars in a newer generation start filling in those gaps. But I feel like there's been about a year since like Speedball came back. I don't know who's the next person. I don't know. I feel like he was the next person that kind of came back and showed back up on the US scene and took over. And next to him, I don't know.
So first of all, on Speedball, so Eric and I saw Speedball in person at PWG in 2015. We flew out for All-Star Weekend in December of 15. It was Eric was accompanying me before his first child was born. It was like a last ditch, like we're gonna do something real cool before you're a dad, and hunkered down. And we went out for PWG, and it was amazing. And we saw Speedball and talked to him actually that night. And then he got banned from the country for 5 years, a month and a half later. And so we had been chomping at the bit since starting Warrior, like the moment Speedball is legal. We've been emailing Speedball for a year before he got his visa situation sorted out in 21. Like we were just waiting. And yeah, Speedball came and took the world by storm. But you're right, it's interesting too, because Speedball is this phenomenal, athletic, in-ring performer that does, in his own words, cool shit that other people can't do. But there aren't very many of those anymore because you see so much cool shit on AEW and WWE to a lesser extent, but their style is different. But you see so much of it so frequently. And I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like there's only so many people that are creating buzz. And the other thing too is that we're not seeing yet, and maybe I'm missing somebody who, everybody can point out I'm wrong. I'm going to go back a couple of years. Warhorse and Danhausen did this phenomenal job of defining themselves as characters, setting them apart from others, and creating incredible buzz around themselves in the indies. Danhausen got used by AEW a couple of times kind of like as a fun thing, and then they ended up absorbing him and signing him. Warhorse, they should have done the same, and you talk about why they have or haven't, but the fact that Warhorse is not being paid a salary on a national platform is crazy. But the two of them did it. And it's so funny because when they came about, and actually to a lesser extent too, Danny Adams, Dan the Dad, around the same time did the same thing, right? Found a niche. When those two or three came around, I went to myself, all right, here it comes, right? There's going to be this wave of performers defining themselves very clearly on socials. And it never happened. And I talk so much with indie workers who want to be on Warrior because they want to, platforms, et cetera, whatever. And it's like, one piece of advice I regularly give folks is study everything Warhorse did, study everything Danhausen did, and study what Speedball has done, right? So either from a character standpoint or a work and uniqueness standpoint, there are blueprints there for you to follow, not copying what they did, but taking the ethos of what they did and putting your own spin on it. If I were running a wrestling school, which I'm not, I would have my trainees not only physically training like crazy, but studying everything Danhausen, Warhorse and Danhausen did in 2020 and 2021, because I think that's a blueprint.
What, are we looking for some kind of scoop or something? Something special? Get out of here! You're bothering me. Unless, hold on, wait. You want to kiss it, don't you? Go ahead. Yeah.
Caveat. Another big problem with indie wrestling is wrestling Twitter. As a social media manager for a promotion, guys, someone has to read your stupid comments. I think that we ruin what we love just by talking a little bit too much shit or by getting into these tribal places that are necessary. Like Warrior drops, I'm going to be very specific, and if you want me to edit this, I will. We drop a graphic for Skye Trevor, and people's first response is, that's unrealistic. And it's like, guys, it's not real.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we saying right now? And if you don't think Skye in real life can beat up Trevor Outlaw, you're not watching, because she probably can.
Yeah, so first of all, no kayfabe, shoot, she could. Just the truth.
Here we go. Go blue. Wait. What?
Now, this is a visual that I think both of us thought would happen.
Skye blue. Oh, my stars, representing Warrior Wrestling. This is awesome.
Second, I think that's a whole nother topic, and maybe this will be a future episode. It's one of my ideas for future episode is wrestling Twitter, wrestling social media, and the Twitter is such a small percentage, but it's the loud percentage, right? So like, you know, if we do a show and there's 500 people there, a lot of them heard about it on Twitter. Some of them heard about it on the radio from their friends, whatever, or some of them heard about it on Twitter and came. The percentage of people who are like arguing with each other in the comments on Twitter or Facebook, and Facebook can be its own cesspool, is like 5 people in the corner over there of the show, right? Like it is not what the audience as a whole is feeling, but it's what those loud 5 people need to tell everyone, you know, in the world. So I actually think social media for wrestling and cancel culture in wrestling and all that that's its own episode. And I think we could do a great job with that. But yeah, I do think it is one issue facing the indies is that, and part of it, it's interesting because Twitter was such a great tool, and I don't think it's totally lost, but I think it was such a great tool for indie wrestling in like 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, right? Like you used to be able to like at the Bucks and they would answer your question. Like it was just a discussion, right? And like, and same thing with Cody when he first came out of WWE. It was just like a place where people could talk and connect with people. And that connection, I think, built the wave of the elite that led to the ROH tide, that led to the New Japan tide in many ways, that led to AEW. But it has just since, and this is true of our country too, with politics and people yelling at each other about everything, it has devolved in just a cesspool of people yelling at each other. It's not a joyful place to be anymore, right? You can go, I go on wrestling Twitter to see if there's something I want to find real quick, the news, check on something. But like, I don't happily spend time on it like I used to because it's just people saying mean stuff to each other. And there's so many bots and things and whatever. And it's just not incentivized to be a positive place to be a wrestling fan anymore. So yeah, I agree. I think that is a problem facing indie wrestling. My problem about identity was very much about from the promoter's side, from the booker's side. But I think from the fan side, it would be really cool to hear some fan input on this too. Mm-hmm. Does Twitter make you more of a fan and happier now compared to how it worked 5, 6, 7 years ago? Or is it a negative? Right. We've got a couple minutes left. Other problems you can think of facing indie wrestling right now?
I can give you the biggest problem I think facing Warrior Wrestling, and I want to put you on the hot spot and know why.
Oh, God. It's going to be about Frank the Clown.
No, it's not.
Go ahead.
It's not. I'm deeper of a person than that. I want to know why you don't like booking women's matches. That's what I want to know.
God. Yeah. There are some folks who in the comments of Facebook and Twitter or whatever regularly, yell at us for not booking enough or not booking the right women's matches. We've been committed, for those of you who are fans, we've been committed to women's wrestling from the dawn of Warrior Wrestling. I think right now, actually, so real quick with the last minute and a half that we have, there is a really weird pickle of women's wrestling in that so many of the great talent have been signed by the big two when they were in their bidding war with one another, that a lot of folks kind of got sucked up to the two alien ships, so to speak, very quickly. And not that there aren't great talent on the indie scene, there are developing great talent, but the volume and the buzz around those talent aren't where it was 3-4 years ago, right? Where, when Warrior 1 happened, we announced the 2 women's matches that we had people coming out of the woodwork like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to see so-and-so locally, because there was indie buzz on a lot of female talents. Almost all of the female talents with great indie buzz, national indie buzz, got absorbed and signed, which is great for them, right? That's the goal. Again, not saying there aren't highly talented folks on the indies. Sometimes it's not just about the talent, it's about the buzz and the ticket sale generation, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. But while you're thinking, I'll throw it in. I think, and this is a reflection on me as well as a booker, promoter, person, whatever, indie wrestling as a whole has not collectively thought of new styles for indie wrestling. Not necessarily in-ring style, but presentational styles. As far as tournaments or series of matches or the way a night goes, et cetera. Like Evolve years ago kind of had this concept of they're going to be shoot style and whatever. I've got some qualms with the concept, but it was a neat concept to try. PWG for a very long time was the place to be for the dream matches. And now, because of all the elements we've talked about, that's really not as sustainable anymore as well, even for them. So I think the very show concept or structure concept hasn't been revolutionized in the last couple of years. And I think it is ripe for a different way to approach shows. Eric and I have talked about this. I'm not going to share some of the things that we're working on, but we've talked about it for our own shows. We need to shake up the concept. I think we are just about to hit time. 20 minutes is up. What's wrong with indie wrestling? These are our thoughts.
Beautiful. Done.